Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY car fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realize you're missing a part. It's okay because you know whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything. Brakes, headlights, cold air intakes, whatever you need. And it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you ordered the right thing. All the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. eBay. Things people love.
Episode 199 of the Wilderness Podcast is brought to you by our supporters. Head on over to patreon.com/thewilderness-podcast if you would like to support the show and possibly get a few goodies along the way. So this episode is dedicated to P. Jackal's Strosity, Mallard, Splemo, Szechuan, Yay Fiber, and Z-Space. Thank you guys so much for your support. If Patreon's not your thing, but you still want to support the show, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dills where you can make a one-time donation. So thank you to 2JZ Soup for keeping me caffeinated this week. And finally, if you want to hang out with us on our Discord server, head on over to discord.gg/thewilderness. We have that unique URL amongst so many other cool things because of our server boosters, battle staffs, Beefy Click, Chick, Hoyt, and Should've. Thank you guys so much for supporting. All right. Thanks everyone for your continued support. Guys, growing a little tired of the way we've been doing these intros. Every now and then I switch. If you're a longtime listener, I have like a midlife crisis on how the show goes. We do little changes. So I think for episode 200, we got to change things up a little bit. Welcome to episode, it's the big 199 this week, right before the big milestone of episode 200. How exciting. I'm Dills, and as always, Mr. Heartless, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We've got some updates to talk about. This is, I guess, I don't know, January is kind of stacked up in one way or another. First off, they dropped the Gillinor Gazette of January, which is basically their road. They kind of just teased their roadmap for 2022. They did this already before, but they're doing it again with some updates to Leagues 3 and further expanding kind of some of the content that they have planned. New quests coming down the line, a new runecrafting activity. But speaking of, they go in more detail about the runecraft activity, Guardians of the Rift. They did a whole Q&A this week, and we got some polls talking about this new way to potentially train runecrafting if it passes, which should be pretty fun. And of course, today they dropped the Revenant Maledictus. Am I pronouncing that right? Let's start it off right away with possible pronunciation problems.
Oh yeah, seems close enough to me.
Seems good. Okay, cool. It is Latin for the chosen one, I think.
Don't ask me. I don't know Latin.
Me either. Or the cursed one. Whatever. We got a new Revenant boss that dropped on us, and kind of funny. This felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't even realize it was dropping today, but it came. So that's interesting. But yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about. Heartless, before I ask you how your week is, we did it last week. I want to do it again. I got a little bit of a rant to go on. We're gonna it's the reoccurring segment of I'm ranting about something. No, it's my ongoing battle I'm having with this retail chain here in Canada called Friggin' Canada Computers. I hate this store. It's this computer store, at least like where Eastern Canada. Do you guys have Canada Computers where you live?
I don't think so.
Don't think so. It's kind of annoying because we don't have too many computer stores to kind of work with where I live. So Canada Computers is there, and I end up having to, even though I hate it, every time I go there, it's like people are so condescending. They're so annoying to talk to. If you don't know anything, if you don't know everything there is about computers, they're gonna make you feel like an idiot. But the whole store itself is just dumb. So I'm working on so I have my office. It's kind of right next to my living room, but I've always been a console gamer when it comes to single player games. PlayStation 4. But I have this computer that I've built, and I've like slowly changed some parts out, and I just play RuneScape on it for the most part. But I'm like, you know what? I want to get some more use out of it. So I've been slowly figuring out a way so that I can play on my computer, but still sit in my living room on the couch on, the big flat screen TV. So yeah, I've been kind of getting all these. I got big HDMI cable. I had to get fiber optics because that apparently at like 20 or 15 feet starts falling off. I don't know what's going on with that, but I needed to get a Bluetooth adapter or a Bluetooth receiver so that I could play using my Bluetooth, like my PS4 controller, but still connected to my computer. So I went to Canada Computers because that's like the only place that had it. And I went to grab this Bluetooth receiver. And there's two of them. There's one that was like 20, there was one that was $15, one that was $50. And I'm guessing they both basically do the same thing. One might be a little bit better, but really, if you don't need much, if I'm just connecting to a room right next, but I don't know much about how strong a Bluetooth signal is. So anyways, I grab the network adapter or the Bluetooth adapter and I go, and then my worry was that it's just not going to be strong enough. Right. And like today's age with Amazon, you can just return anything, right? If you ever have a problem with something, they barely even ask questions. You can just return it. It's pretty nice. I kind of expect more stores to be a little bit more flexible with returning things. And out of all stores, I would expect Canada Computers to have a decent return policy because I imagine a bunch of people there buy things thinking they need something and it doesn't work the way they think it's supposed to work, whatever it is. So that was my worry. So I asked them, what's the return policy on this like Bluetooth receiver? Like if it doesn't do what I need, can I return it? And he like literally said, probably not.
What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean probably not? It's usually yes or no. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, if it's broken, then yeah, we'll replace it with a new one. You can return it. But if you just don't like it, we can't return that. And I was like, well, I want to buy it because I want to connect to a different room that's next to where I'm going to be playing. If the signal's not strong enough, can I bring it back? And he's like, maybe. It depends on the customer service, but you're probably safer in just saying no. And I was like, so what do you mean it's based on the customer service? And he says, like, it depends. They might take it back. They might not.
That's crazy. It seems standard policy. Like if you have a receipt and the thing has not been used or it doesn't work properly, that companies take things back without questions,
Yeah, I wasn't too sure. And I was just like, okay, well, I'm not going to gamble. And then he's like, well, if you're worried about the connection, we do have the higher model, which is $50. And I was like, can I return that? And he's like, it's the same thing. So I was like, I'm not going to take my chance when I can just go to Amazon. I ended up going to Best Buy, but yeah.
You say it's $15 for you. Yeah, like sure, it's not much for you, but for them, it's like theoretically even less. So usually companies err on the side of customer service, if you want to have happy customers.
Yeah, it's
Jesus. So you went to Best Buy instead?
I went to Best Buy and everything worked out. And yeah, I'm sure that $15 one would have worked because I got the $15 one there and it worked well. But
so I have a follow-up question for you. If Canada Computers is the worst store you've ever been to, which is the best store, the best stores you've ever been to with customer service?
Oh, like out of any store.
Yeah. Or like service or something.
Whenever someone's like customer service is really good, like I'm the person that goes on Google reviews and I write this like raving review because they were so nice to me. Like the Bluetooth receiver, I couldn't hook it up. So I called a guy, what was it? Insignia was the company. And the dude was for like 40 minutes, sat down with me and helped me get the drivers all working. That was awesome.
That's sick.
Another one was for like audio editing, there are these tools. They're called plugins, but you get all these different tools and you can do little things with it to make audio sound differently or louder or whatever it is. There's this company called Waves, which is what I use for a lot of these plugins. And for some reason, they just stopped working. And I called a dude, and over the course of like a weekend, he called me like a bajillion times trying to figure out how to get it to work. That was pretty cool.
That's nice.
Yeah. Whenever I have good customer service, it really stands out. And
it really does, hey?
Yeah, like we can relate this to like RuneScape. People kind of talk about how shit the customer service is or the customer support. And I think it's hard when you have so many customers and a lot of them are just the worst.
It's true. It's true.
It would be they probably get so many emails being like, I got scammed, give me my friggin' money back. But I know with Blizzard is like way in the dumpster these days. Just go read up what they've been up to. It's not good. But back when World of Warcraft was like in its prime, the customer service was really great. You'd set up a ticket and a dude would send you a private message. It'd be like a JMod private messaging you when you send in a customer ticket. And they always role played it too, which was kind of interesting, being like, I'm the high wizard at Blizzard. And anyways, then they always would help you out with your issues there, which was really cool.
I feel like no matter how good they did, the widespread sexual harassment among the top ranks has just kind of ruined them. So
yeah, exactly. They really
they really fucked up, didn't they?
Yeah, and that's like,
man,
that's just one small bit of it.
Oh, I'm sure it's way deeper.
Oh, laundry list of just terrible things. Oh man, what a shitty company that would be to work for. But
I'm sure there's a lot more that we just haven't heard about. Yeah, especially in like the video game realm.
Oh god.
Two that stick out for me was a couple times I've purchased stuff with my Visa, which is like the credit card company I use online.
Nice.
Through PayPal, because that's what it's linked through. And like the things haven't arrived. And then the seller's like, no, it's going to come, because they're, I don't know. Maybe it was sketchy a couple times, but either way, it went past the PayPal return deadline. So I couldn't get my money back. I remember one of them was for a GPU. And I was like kind of freaking out because I'd spend like, $600 or $700 on this thing.
Oh, wow.
And it hadn't shown up, and the seller was just like basically ghosting me. So I called Visa. I'm like, hey, PayPal won't do anything for me, but this thing never showed up, and I bought it like, I don't know, 22 days ago or something. And I've been in contact with the seller, and he's just kind of ghosting me. And they were just so nice, returned my money, like forced it back through PayPal. It's so easy, dude.
That's sweet.
And there's like, anything else I can help you with? I was like, no, I just didn't expect it. It was really nice. It's happened a couple times now. So Visa's always been really good.
It's awesome.
Makes sense. They have a lot of money, so obviously they can afford to have great customer service.
Mm-hmm.
But I find it goes a long way. There's also this company. Do you have Cal Tire over in the East?
No, Cal Tire. What is that?
They're basically a tire company.
Oh, cool.
Like,
nice.
Auto shops. They do a lot of tire stuff. I think they're mostly Western Canada. But man, they're freaking great. Their customer service is the best I've seen, basically. Just so nice, so knowledgeable. They're never like condescending. They explain stuff to you. Their prices are really good. They tell you everything up front. They just do like really thorough inspections. They're just really, really good company.
That's awesome. Especially in like the automotive industry, having like a really good customer service. Yeah. It's like so important, because a lot of people are like
totally
so out of the loop. They also
like promote from like within. So people who like start as like main laborers always will, like, not always, but they can make their way up to the top ranks.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember meeting a bunch of people that were like higher executives, and they were like, oh yeah, we all just started as like, jockeys on the floor, swapping tires, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's also like pretty wholesome and nice to see.
Yeah, that's good. I remember CBC did one of these like marketplace videos. Like they I forget what they call it. I think they're called marketplace, but they like send someone undercover, and it'll be like the automotive industry. They'll send this like young woman who's like goes in and it's like, something wrong with my car, and I have no idea what it is.
Like
and then
CBC Marketplace classic.
Yeah, and she'll just act like she has no idea about how the car works. Like, I think it needs an oil change, and then it shows you like they'll look at it and be like, oh no, this is a whole engine repair, and even though it's like nothing.
Taking advantage of people basically.
Yeah, so when you have so now I think in the automotive industry, I could be wrong. I have no idea. I'm so far removed. I don't know nothing about cars, but I think there's so many scummy practices that have happened that are like everyone knows about, that there's so many places that work really hard to be like, no, we are the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's kind of, in a lot of business, reputation is really important. So
yeah, totally.
It's worth, in the long run, it's really worth it for sure. Because I just like cannot recommend that company more. For sure. Like anyone who I ever talked to, I'm like, they're like, oh, I need something done with my tires or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, go to Cal Tire. They're just the best.
Nice. Is it a chain?
Yep. I think it was like originally, it started in my hometown where I grew up as like a small business, and then they just got really big and expanded. So I think they're in Western Canada. I know for sure BC and Alberta, but it might be a little further into Saskatchewan too. But yeah, they're really good.
That's fun.
But I'm sure there's sort of equivalents to them, in other places.
Oh,
and in different business styles. But anyways, this is a far cry from Canada Computers, who freaking suck.
Yeah, it's always been it's all every time I go in there, it's kind of shit, and then I try to go somewhere else, and then there's not much else to go to, so that's rough. Anyways, yeah, that's my Canada Computers rant. There'll be more to come. We can have it. It can be not on a reoccurring segment. This is me trying to get them to change their ways not from the inside, but from like the outside. It's like I'm like diagonally adjacent from them. Yeah. Anyways, we're like the press, right? When like CBC writes a bad article about Canada Computers and we can't have that happening, and they're gonna the Wild Boys, we gotta change our ways. The Wild Boys are exposing us. That's the hope. Anyways. None of that really matters. How was your week? What have you been up to?
Not much. Obviously, never gonna match last week with the Dupe Ellie. So
true. It's all downhill from here.
Yeah, exactly. No, in game was pretty chill. I did a lot of Corrupted Gauntlet, and I did Callisto as well, which I said I wasn't going to do until I got a wilderness weapon. Because I was going for the ring to give me like a slight boost at Corp. But one night I just kind of felt like it. I really like doing wilderness content really late at night.
Okay. Why is that?
I don't know, because I find it's bossing still, but it's also, you don't have to click. So it's quite chill. You know what I mean? Like you just safe spot the things, and I don't know, I just like it.
I know what you mean.
It also tends to be quieter at nighttime. Like there's not as many PKers in the day, especially for West Coast, because like everyone's asleep. It's like 7 a.m. in the morning for UK, and it's like super late for East Coast. So if it's like midnight for me, it's usually really dead. So I just kind of wanted to send some Callisto, throw on some like thunderstorm background, because I usually don't listen to loud music late at night. Put on something a little quieter. Nice. And lo and behold, like 20kc in, I got the tyrannical ring, which is pretty sick.
The tyrannical ring, that gives you crush bonus, right? It
does. No, yeah, like +8, I think. So it's not huge, but I think it's like 2% extra to hit. So we take those.
Yeah, so that'd be really the only thing I can ever think of that being useful is with the Dragon Warhammer, because you really want to hit that spec.
It doesn't matter.
Gives you a little bit of accuracy with it. Do you know of any other uses?
I've seen some people take it to Sanity's or just like Nightmare, but I'm not really a Nightmare. I haven't really done it yet, so it's hard to say. But I have seen it in some loadouts. But yeah, it's basically just for Corp.
Just for Corp. Okay,
yeah, mostly because you really want to hit those specs in like 2%. I mean, it's not huge, but it definitely adds up. Was it worth doing the like 45 hours it took me to get this tiny ring? Absolutely not. But I really did enjoy killing Callisto. So I think I got it around 750, which is not too far over the drop rate.
Yeah. Okay. Well, congrats.
That's pretty good.
That's nice.
I would go back for the pet at some point if I get a chain mace, but that remains to be seen.
Oh boy.
I will start going for a wilderness weapon when I hit 2200 total.
Okay.
But for now, for the Rev caves, especially 2200 totals, like at night for me, it's going to be it's dead. I'm not going to see anyone. So, but until then, I think I'm just going to, focus on skills and gauntlet until I can get those two done.
Not bad. Yep.
Yeah. What about you? You been playing much?
So I was playing leagues. We talked about it last week, and I'm saying I'm getting a little bit burnt out. I think I have this problem with the other two leagues, and it kind of is the conundrum you had when you logged in, where I'm playing it and I'm having fun, and a week goes by and I might not be able to play as much as I thought I would, and I'm kind of falling behind a little bit. And then, here we are, was it 2 weeks in or 3 weeks in, where the time, it's the point when it's going to end is kind of seems like it's really encroaching on me. And I'm playing it and just not making as much progress as I thought I would be. And then I'm sitting there being like, I really look forward to bossing, right? That's what I really want to do. And it's just taking me a lot longer to get there. And yeah, and I'm like, I guess I could just log in my main and boss. And the problem I have is like, if I'm doing other work, I can kind of AFK on the side. But when I'm playing leagues, you have a bunch of tasks you need to complete, and then you reach different tiers by getting points from those tasks, which you can then, it just makes you a stronger you can equip more fragments and you get more perks and you're just stronger overall, and it'll make bossing and the whole thing will just progress so much faster. I'm sitting there like, okay, I'm going to AFK. What do I AFK? Do I just AFK to 99 woodcutting? I'm not going to get any points along the way. I'm going to get X amount of points for getting to 99, but that's kind of like, it's very pointless if I get that 99 and then I don't get enough points to get to the next tier, right? Because it's all about doing these tasks. And I just found when I was actively playing, I wanted to kill stuff. I didn't want to go do a bunch of achievement diaries that were a bit different. Like, I don't want to go do 25 books from the Arceus library, and I don't want to go do these quests, and I don't want to go kill a moss giant for a Byrofita key or try to get the Obor club. And some of that can be kind of fun, but not if you I guess want to do specific content. So
yeah, fair enough.
Anyways, I found myself AFKing just my main account because I couldn't think of anything to AFK in leagues. So I did that while I'm working or doing whatever. And then I've been grinding my pure a lot recently. I don't think I mentioned this, but I've had this pure in the works for quite some time now. But I built this pure. I really like making accounts, but I never finish.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I do a bunch of stuff on it, and then my goal of the account, I never ever achieve it because I usually get bored and just move on to something else. But I've been working on this one defense pure for a very long time, and I beat all these quests for it. It's all quested up. I just got to train out stats now. I was kind of lazy and didn't feel like cannoning or AFKing training it. But so I had a baby back in November, and where my office, I got to backtrack a bit. I had my office in an old bedroom, but then I had to turn that into the nursery for the baby when it was going to arrive. So I moved my office to a smaller office, and I have this big flat screen TV that was in my old office, but the smaller office doesn't have anywhere to put it. So I just mounted it on my wall, but it's not at a level that I can game off of it without breaking my neck. But I didn't want to just get rid of the TV because it's we've been through. This is my first flat screen TV, which it sounds really nobody calls them flat screens anymore, but this was legitimately the first time I ever owned a flat screen TV. Was this 42-inch LG TV when I was 18 years old. I had a small Honda Civic that I bought this TV on Boxing Day right after Christmas. I got it on sale, and then I couldn't fit it in my car, and I had everyone at the shop. I forget where I got it, but I had a bunch of people from the store trying to help me figure out how to fit this into my small little Honda Civic. I eventually got it. I had to open up all the windows and have the corners sticking out. So I wanted to use this thing still because it still works. So I mounted it on my wall. All I ever do is have Twitch streams on it. So if I'm working or gaming, whatever it is, I can kind of glance up every now and then and watch something on the background. Something I don't need to listen to either. And what I've been doing is I've been playing. I find that RuneScape PK streamers are really great to have running on the background that you can just glance at once every 5 minutes, because I don't want to watch somebody grinding Corrupted Gauntlet because you kind of got to be more engaged into the stream. I don't want to watch someone two-tick fishing because you're there for listening to the streamer talk or whatever. You're not there to actually watch them do it. But PKing, I can mute them. I can look over, watch them fight. Nobody dies, somebody teleports out. And I'm okay, I'll go back to my work. So the reason I bring that up is because while I was watching it, I found after a day, I'm man, I really want to start PKing again. I really want to play on my pure. So I started training my pure up. Just AFK. I was trying to figure out the best way to train my pure because I didn't want to grow HP on it. So I was cannoning at the combat training camp where there's these ogres, they're in a cage, and it's really easy to just cannon them and you don't gain any HP experience. So you can keep your combat low while doing a lot of damage with your high level range. But that was really slow and really expensive. It cost me 5,000 cannonballs every single day, and I gained 80k experience. So I started experimenting by going to Nightmare Zone and then trying sand crabs. And I bring this up just to let you know, sand crabs seems like the best way to train. If you need something that's very AFK, very cheap, while still giving decent experience, yeah, sand crabs are really good. And if you do Beneath Cursed Sands, that's not it. If you do the Hasidius House quest, I don't remember the name of it, But you unlock this dungeon, and there's a spot where there's 4 crabs, and it's really easy to find an empty world. So you just grab it, and you only have to click like maybe once every 5 minutes if you want to repot up and eat some food if you're 1 defense. Or you can just wait the 10 minutes, and then you can click. You know, you get the Runelight plugin, the aggression zone, so you can see where you need to click to reset aggro. And you click back, and it's super chill. And I was getting like 300k experience a day. Mind you, this is for like 8 hours. But that's pretty good.
It's not bad, yeah. Yeah, sand crabs are like the original, like rock crabs and sand crabs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess the other one would be ammonite crabs, which just have more health, but they're a little bit busier.
Yeah, ammonite crabs are a little bit busier from what I know. And they do have more HP. And I think it's harder to find, like you can't find like a 4 spot like you can with sand crabs. So I think that probably works out to about the same as having 2 ammonite crabs. But yeah, it's so it was I've been training my pure. I finally got 90 range. I died and lost my heron pet because I didn't have it insured, so that happened.
Dills. That hurts.
Yeah, it was like kind of shitty, but I didn't care too much. I guess I wasn't too attached to pets that are on my pure. So I got that at like 70 fishing. That was kind of cool. But anyways,
that's fair.
I've been just really wanting to PK, and I haven't PK'd in a long time. The last time I PK'd, it was like episode 50 of the podcast. I had 70 defense and like 99 strength and like 99 attack. And I went to Edgeville, and it was good fun. I got fucked up a bunch, but I got some kills too because there were some people who weren't that great. So I really want to learn how to PK, and been watching videos, and WoW is like, that is hard. PKing's really hard. Like, it's a lot to pay attention to, not just speccing, but you're watching your HP, their HP, you're watching your experience drops, your prayer. There's a lot going on there. And
yeah, it was a huge skill cap for sure.
yeah, but I'm excited to try it. And pures are a great way to do it because you don't have to risk as much as you would if you were on a main. A main, you need a lot of money if you want to actually compete. You'll face people with like 50 mil gear. So you kind of want to have something that's comparable to that. But a pure, you'd be a little bit cheaper. You're still spending quite a bit. But one thing that I was doing when I wanted to PK, but I didn't want to die a bunch and lose, pay to play money, I was going to free to play worlds and free to play PKing. And there is a lot of free to play PKers. It's like every time I've gone, it's super busy of all different like combat levels. So whatever bracket, you'll probably find someone. And people are there just to have fun because they're not worried about really making money, because if you kill someone in the free to play world, you'll make like maybe 60, 70K if you're lucky. Rune Scimitar, Rune Two-Hander, you might get that. You might get a power amulet or strength. It's like nothing though. But a lot of people are there to have fun. So, because I found that people were just constantly like starting fights with me, and they'd be much lower level than me. I might not have a skull, so I was risking nothing, but people just didn't seem to care. And it's been pretty fun. So yeah, I was just surprised to see how busy it was. And even, there's a few hot zones. If you go to PvP World on free to play, there's Lumberage, which is packed. There's the Grand Exchange, which is packed. And then they have the Wilderness world, where if you go to that world, it's not a PvP world, but you go to Edgeville, that was kind of busy too, which was really nice to see, because PKing and Lumberage is fun, but it feels like you're playing on a private server. I long for the days where it was Edgeville that was super busy. But yeah, it's been fun. So yeah, just kind of put that out there. If anyone's like wanted to PK, like make a pure, or even just make a free to play pure. You don't need high stats at all. Like, you'll find like level 40 combats. There's brackets all over the place, and it really is a lot of fun. And it's like it's simpler than members, right? So much less to deal with. It's really just a Mabel shortbow into a Rune Two-Hander to KO, but it's still fun. Like, it's a lot of like there's a skill ceiling. Like, I'll face some people, and sometimes people are just like way outclass me, and I'm like, I don't know how. We're attacking using the same shit. I have more range than you. You're just destroying me. I don't know what's going on there, but So it's been fun. Yeah, there's my little venture into PvP. So yeah, I recommend it. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Oh,
It's just weird when you put something on and you like want to try it. I did that with League last week, League of Legends.
Oh, no.
I've been watching a bunch of YouTube videos like while I'm doing skilling or whatever. And I started playing and then I quit. So it was not fun.
Who would be your like main champion?
I don't know. Like I used to, when I got to Diamond last time, I played Hecarim when he was really strong.
Oh, yeah.
And then when I was in Diamond and started to climb, I started to play more like meta stuff like Elise. Evelyn at the time was really strong. So those kind of champions.
Nice.
But I was pretty much just a meta slave. I just didn't really play Lee Sin. My mechanics weren't like the greatest. I was more about like positioning and being aggressive and stuff. So yeah, I usually stayed away from Lee, but I played most other junglers, I would say. I'm just talking about League now. Anyways, yeah, I quit. I was quite frustrated after some games, and I don't know, it just doesn't make me happy anymore. But I've been watching Bodhi's playthrough of Roller Coaster Tycoon Classic.
Oh,
which is like a combo of Roller Coaster Tycoon and then like Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 together.
Mm-hmm.
And damn, it is good. It just reminds me how friggin' fun that game was. I played it when I was a kid, got it out of a cereal box.
Dude, oh my God. Yes, I remember that. That's freaking crazy. I don't know if that was just
such
a Canada
a sick
thing.
game to get in a cereal box, honestly.
You would get Lucky Charms, which is awesome. It would just come with Roller Coaster Tycoon, and that was sick.
The game is honestly just so good. So anyways, I've been really enjoying Bodhi's playthrough, and then it was on sale for like $7 on Steam. So I picked it up, and a friend of mine from elementary school, we usually play like Slay the Spire and stuff together like once a week. Game. But we've been hitting some Roller Coaster Tycoon, so it's been an absolute blast.
Yeah, that game is great.
And my girlfriend actually really enjoys Bodhi's playthroughs. She's like, he's got a nice voice. And she just falls asleep. So I tend to put those on when we have a TV in our room. So when she's falling asleep and I'm just reading or doing like whatever on mobile, I'll throw it on and she's out like a light. But yeah, it's been.
And then you jump
really
on
fun.
League of Legends. She hears you screaming at someone.
Yeah. We're not going to talk about that. Anyways, I quit that game for now. So I'm sure we'll be back in a year. But yeah, it's been good, man. So
yeah, I have Roller Coaster Tycoon on my phone. They have the same, I think 1 and 2, and they came up with a mobile app, which is it's good. It's not like, it's literally just a ported version. Like it works really well. So I bust that out every now and then.
It must be hard to build roller coasters on that though.
It's actually not that difficult. Yeah, they do a really good job. It's pretty intuitive.
That's good. Yeah, I really like building custom ones. That's definitely the most fun part of the game.
Yeah,
for sure.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah, there's so many like scenarios too. Yeah, it's a good game. So I'm gonna chip my way through that with my friend. So we'll see. It's probably gonna take us a good year to beat though. This is a lot of levels, man. It's like 200 or something.
And it's tough. And half the time it's like get to year 3 and have this much. So you get to year 3 and you don't beat it and you have to restart. And God damn, there's 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. 3 years of my life. Yeah, but I highly recommend that series for anyone who wants something chill to put on the side. So it's very fun.
I heard Roller Coaster 3 is not good, but Planet Coaster, different company made that one, but they made it as a what's the word? They continue the Roller Coaster Tycoon legacy by making that.
Yeah, RCT2 is just too strong. And there's also an open version of it. It's like a free open source version, I think, that people can download. So yeah, it has a few like extra plugins that the vanilla game doesn't come with.
Nice. The Rune Light of Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Exactly. That's Anyways, cool. we're wildly off topic. We should get into these updates.
I was like, I really want to talk about why I love simulation games, but I also, when I think of it on a deep level, I ruin the game for me. But we're going to save that for another episode. Okay. It'll come up eventually. Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's get into some RuneScape stuff because we got a bunch. There's a whole lot going on. So I guess we'll start with the Gielinor Gazette. They kind of updated this one. We talked about it before a few episodes ago, but they kind of came up with a roadmap for 2022. It's like compared to what 2020 and 2021 was, this is like crazy ambitious. And if they can pull this off, that'll be pretty cool. I'll be very surprised. And I'm going to explain why I'd be very surprised because there's a lot going on there. So They showed this graph, and there's 7 teams in Jagex that are working on old school RuneScape, and each team is charged with a bunch of different updates. So this is from January to June. So this isn't even like, this is only this is half a year of content, right? You have Team 1 who was working on Nex, that released in the first week or so of January. And next thing they're working on is the Land of the Goblins, this new quest that's continuing the Dorgeshan quest line. That's coming out mid-February, which is, people love quests, right?
That's a hot take, but
quests always pass.
They do. They certainly do. People like new quests, but saying people love quests is certainly a hot take.
That's true. People love the idea of quests. People love the idea of old school RuneScape questing, but they hate doing it for the most part.
Honestly, if it's good quests, I really tend to like the really big ones.
I love, the big ones are good, but I love when somebody, when somebody who understands a quest, they beat it and they tell me about the quest. I love hearing about it. It's like with Dune. We're getting a lot sidetracked. I read the book Dune. I didn't really care for it. I got kind of bored. I'll be honest. I really liked parts of it, but I got kind of bored. But I watch YouTube videos that explain the books of Dune, and they'll talk about it themselves, and I freaking love it.
Going after my favorite book of all time there, Dills.
The world building, the concepts, all of it's great. When I was reading it, I couldn't get pulled in. But I loved hearing about the world of Arrakis and hearing about the guild. And I love when people tell me about it. That's fun.
The book has a lot of like extra universe politics too that the movies don't show as well, or it's like hard to get across in the films. So I've always found that really interesting.
And I love hearing about it. So yeah, there's quests coming out, and I think people love, like, RuneScape has awesome storytelling in terms of how they do their quests compared to other MMOs. Sometimes the quests aren't that engaging. I found Kingdom Divided really showcased this, where the story was really great, but I got very bored, and I didn't like the way the story was presented to me. So
let's be honest, it can't be worse than the Theater of Blood first trial of the quest. So
it was rough, but
yikes.
Dragon Slayer 2. What is that even an old school RuneScape quest? That was such a good quest. I had literal shivers.
Song of the Elves, so good.
Another good one. Some of those quests are friggin' awesome. Other quests are kind of stinkers. It's really, really random. But we have Land of the Goblins. It's coming out mid-February. Team 1 also working on Beneath Cursed Sands, which is the Raids 3 precursor quest, which is supposed to be coming out the end of April, right? And then the Tombs of a Masket. Can you tell I have to think? How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, I saw that mental pause.
Tomb Raider, not Tomb Raider. It's Tomb Raider. Tombs of a Masket won't be coming out until after June. Not really any release date yet, but yeah. So that's happening.
January 2023 is when it's coming out.
Yeah, maybe. It's going to be in the next Summer Summit. It'll be pitched again. Team 2 is working on 2 major pieces of content. They are working on removing the dual arena, and they're going to be replacing that with a PvP arena, which will be coming out in the middle of May. Very excited for that. They are also going to be releasing the Wilderness Boss rework again sometime after June. So they are reworking Callisto. All these bosses that are in the Wilderness that are, we like them because they're chill and you get good loot. Well, they're probably not going to be super chill by the time they're done, but they might be fun. So yeah. Team 3, they have released Leagues 3 at the third week of January. They have a community event that will be coming out sometime in April, beginning of April. There will be a skilling update, which is coming out sometime in June, which I believe is going to be this farming and hunter activity, this skilling boss where you kill this tortoise that they teased about. And then they have what's just called a small quest we'll be releasing sometime after June. Team 4, they are basically working on week-to-week updates, quality of life, small changes, but they're also going to be charged with the birthday event happening in February because old school RuneScape is turning 9 years old. Holy crap. In February. Wow. And they're also going to be in charge of the Easter event, which is dropping in April, of course. Team 5 is working on this new player experience. What that means, who really knows? If you're listening to this podcast, it might not have anything to do with you because you might not be a new player. You might be a new player and you're listening to this, in which case, this is for you. And what's really cool is I totally forget how much new player how the new player experience has changed. They've added a bunch to it. They've really streamlined some things because we're not new players, so we don't get to see any of this stuff. And when we make new accounts, we almost always say, I'm an experienced player, so they don't give you anything. But if you say I'm a new player, you get all these like tasks to do. Like you get these mini quests, go chop oak trees, go equip a steel axe. Like it's kind of like a Leagues of Their Own, and you get like 5K at the end, which is in like full steel or something. But one thing I really like is I love watching like first impressions of YouTubers who don't play RuneScape, but they get paid to play RuneScape by Jagex. The Salt Factory was paid to do a sponsor video for Leagues 2, and he basically was like, he does these videos where it's like, is this game still fun? And he'll go back and play like Fallout 1, 2, 3, and 4. He'll go back and play the first of Oblivion games. He'll go back and play Roller Coaster Tycoon. He'll talk about his experience today, and how the game is. And he did one on RuneScape, and I loved watching someone who doesn't play RuneScape play RuneScape and hearing them talk about it. And then he went through this whole like new player experience thing that I didn't get to see. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, that's all that Team 5 works on. Team 6 is all about the Steam client features dropping at the middle of May, and then they will continue to drop after June. And finally, Team 7 is working on Guardians of the Rift, which we're going to be talking about in a minute, which will be releasing sometime in March. And then they have another project that they have not announced, which will be sometime after June. So there's a lot there. And we also got a peek at a song called Catacombs and Tombs. Sounds very... I was going to say it sounds very Raids 3, but that's not true at all. Anyways, hear the full song at the end of the episode. That can be the song of the week this week. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, that's a lot planned. Heartless, how do you feel about the first half of 2022?
Much better than the first half of 2021.
Yeah. Do you think that like so far, like, do you think everything will roll out as they have planned?
Yeah, I think so for the first half of the year. Now, I consider Next and Leagues 3 to be 2021 updates.
Okay.
Because sure they came out in 2022, but they really should have come out last year, both of them.
Yeah, they kind of held it, right?
They did hold them, especially Leagues. Like I'm not really counting that one. So I assume we'd get another Leagues in the fall. Or like end of the year. But yeah, I don't know. Yes, I don't see why not. I'm really excited about this rune crafting one.
Yeah.
I can't wait to talk about it. Yeah,
it should be really, really cool. Yeah, 2022, if everything comes out as they have planned, and if I'm also expecting the second half of 2022 to also have some stuff, maybe not at this scale, but still having some updates for us to get excited about, then 2020, then I'll be like friggin' in awe of this year and of old school RuneScape. Because that's a lot planned, and that's exciting. That's a lot to look forward to. But yeah, let's get into the I guess one of the next big updates that we'll be seeing, if you want to ignore the quests. This is what you mentioned, the Guardians of the Rift. This is a new, they call it a rune crafting minigame, but they mentioned that they don't really like the name minigame, but they don't want to call it activity either because it's a little bit more. It's going to be like a Wintertod or a Temperos, but it's not going to be like Wintertod or Temperos because it's going to be its own thing, of course. But
call it a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. So the whole idea is that this would be a fun way to train rune crafting that will yield fair experience, but not the best experience. Yeah, and also some unique rewards. Yeah, so it's been a bit of a battle. There's some people are concerned. Other people are like, "Yo, guys, shut up. Who cares? Nobody. Go back into your lava room crafting."
Basically, people on Reddit are mad as usual because they're not happy that we're getting an update to rune crafting. They are just need to find something to be angry at. So they've chosen the XP rates and how Jagex like to compare them to lava runes, which are very click intensive. I shouldn't say very, but they are click intensive, and they're the sort of not best in slot. What am I talking about? They're the best, most efficient way to train rune crafting right now.
Yeah.
So Jagex is, people are like, no, you shouldn't be comparing it to lava runes because it's too click intensive for most people. It's like, well, just shut up. They're just doing their best. They're talking about the current things that are in the game and they're comparing it to that. So that's kind of their benchmark that they're using to set up the XP for this mini game.
And what's interesting is that there has been like some people are like, one, XP rates are too high for this, but they're still lower than lava rates. And then you have the other people who are like, XP rates are too low because lava runes is friggin' stupid. So
I can't remember lava rune rates, something like 78K
yeah, it's
per
like
hour
70, something like 70 to 80.
Let's just say 80K per hour if you're super efficient. And it's about 30K per hour doing ZMI at 65.
Yeah.
So before 65, your options are super thin. And then you get to 65 and you basically are stuck with ZMI, which is very shitty. Like, let's not get it twisted. It's one of the worst grinds in the game. It's click intensive. You have to pay attention. There's lots of banking and unbanking. You have to hit stamina pots. You have to teleport. You have to spellbook swap sometimes. It sucks. Yeah. The experience rates are terrible. And then you get to blood runes, which have, let's say, essentially the same XP rates. They're a little bit better, and it's super chill content. But at the same time, it's still very slow. So what? And then there's sort of Jagex is saying, so if that's the really low, like blood runes is the low, 30K per hour, 80K per hour is the high for lava runes. We're gonna try and nail this mini game somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Which I think is totally fair. I don't know. I'd like to see the mini game go up to like 80K, 90K per hour if you're like really good at it. But who knows what the mini game is going to be like? We don't even know if it's fun yet. But I certainly think the early to get to blood runes experience needs to be a lot better. So I hope this mini game covers that for people. Because the rewards look sick. We'll talk about them soon, but they're all amazing.
Yeah, so let's start off with a little bit of lore for runecrafting in general. The art of runecrafting was a pivotal moment in the world of Gielinor. People began calling the land of Gielinor RuneScape. The history of Gielinor is broken up into 5 separate ages, where we currently reside in the 5th age. But in order to talk about the origins of runecrafting, we have to go back to the 1st age, which is when humans first came to Gielinor. Gothics created rune stones, which are small, weightless stones that allows people to cast magical spells. So many of these sentient beings on the world of Gielinor began to practice the art of magic. As time would go on, we enter the 2nd age. Humans and other beings were using so much magic that this caused the runes that Gothics had provided to dwindle. And because of this, many different factions began fighting and warring against each other over these runestones. And while a lot of this was going on, the Fremeniks were dealing with their own situation. The founder of the Lunar Moon Clan, V, was originally a Fremenik seer. V discovered the Stone of Jazz, which is one of the elder gods not yet discovered in old school RuneScape in the 5th age. But they discovered this ancient artifact, and they found that around this artifact were rocks that would be formed into rune essence. These magical rocks were capable of absorbing the elements of the magic coming from this artifact. V, the Fremenik seer, and his followers then created runecrafting altars in different areas most attuned to their respective element. But over time, these altars would then fold upon themselves, And with these altars, they learned that by bringing pieces of this magical rock, rune essence, to these altars, they could attune the rocks and create new rune stones, which they could then use as a material for magic once again. Venus followers would be able to continue to craft runes for themselves, but this was an art form that only them and the Fremeniks were aware of. This caused a conflict and a split between the Fremeniks, where V and many of his followers would split off and form what is now known as the Moon Clan, who would later on develop a new set of spells known as lunar magic. But many of the other Fremeniks disagreed with V and his followers. The Fremeniks believed that the runestones were tools of gods, and that they should only use the runes that were given by these gods, namely Guthix himself. As the Moon Clan separated and began to continue rune crafting, these altars would slowly begin to collapse on themselves from the high concentration of magic being used. Eventually, the Moon Clan would have to flee the Relica area, where they retreated to the Lunar Isle, where they would then be able to continue practicing their craft, and the Fremeniks decided to abstain from magic altogether, something that still goes forward to this day. Going forward in the Third Age, we know that this is when the God Wars happens, a major world war, for lack of a better term, with many of the gods waging war against each other and followers being the soldiers for these wars. This war would last approximately 4,000 years, when it would finally come to an end by Guthix realizing the devastation that is happening and putting an end to the God Wars itself. But due to this everlasting battle, magic was being used at an all-time high, and the heavy use of magic was causing the supply of runes to quickly fade away. In the year 2000 of the Fourth Age, humans rediscovered magic, where a rune essence mine was uncovered in the frozen wastes to the north, which is where the Stone of Jas, this ancient artifact, had once rested. They would then discover that these rune essence rocks could be chiseled down into rune stones, and these rune stones could be brought to these magical conduits, which the Moon Clan had created, known as altars. And since humans were the first ones to rediscover magic, they began to dominate the other races around RuneScape, which brought RuneScape into its fifth age, known as the Age of Man. Institutes were devoted to its studies, most notably the Wizard's Tower, Mage Training Arena, and the Wizard's Guild. But while humans began using magic again and practicing and studying, the Fremeniks went on a crusade known as the Rune Crafting Crusades, and they roamed the human kingdoms, destroying any temples to the altars created by V and his followers. The crusades lasted about 20 years and saw to the destruction of the Mage Training Arena itself, as well as the destruction of the legendary Hall of Camdozel, which we know today underneath Ice Mountain as the ruins of Camdozel. Miscellanean wizards and soldiers from Lumbridge eventually managed to halt the invasion on the western bank of the River Lum, where the Fremennik settled in a village, which we know as Barbarian Village. 8 years after this, members of the Wizard's Tower discovered how to solve a teleportation problem by routing teleports through another plane, the Abyss. They learned that this would allow them to create teleports and thus teleport directly to the rune essence mine from anywhere in the world, which would greatly increase rune production. However, a Zamorakian demon known as Azakorax disagreed with this practice and found it unacceptable to be used by Saradomus Blue's wizards. This caused strife between Zamorakian and Saradomin orders. But the Wizard's Tower would prosper, and Zamorakian resentment would continue to grow, which would lead to many societies responding with extreme anti-Zamorak sentiments. The Wizard Order of Dagonhai was then evicted from Varrock, many of these followers being killed, and in Asgarnia, where both White Knights and Black Knights would rule Falador, the Black Knights were soon stripped of their political powers and kicked out of Falador itself. And because many Zamorakian followers were being exiled, this caused them to study and find their own rune crafting discovery known as the Zamorak Magical Institute, also known in-game as ZMI. And while all of this is going on, the Moon Clan is still on Lunar Isle, practicing magic using this newly founded spellbook or set of magical spells known as Lunar Magics, and they are learning how to cast magic without the need for rune stones. And there is the history of the rune crafting skill in a nutshell. All right, so before you do this minigame, the Guardians of the Rift, you will have to do the precursor quest. I really like when they do a quest, like a prerequisite quest that's required before doing, a new raid or doing some activity. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, it's good. I think it adds to the lore and the sort of into the game in general. Yeah, I do like it, as long as it's not like overly tedious.
Fair enough. Yeah. So this one is going to be called the Temple of the Eye quest. It will naturally guide you into the Guardians of the Rift, and they want the minigame to feel like it's grounded into the wider world. So they want a quest that will allow you to kind of bring you there. They don't want it to just be this thing that's just like plop it down and here it is. They want you to be guided to it. Yeah, and you know what? You'll get a little bit of runecraft experience from this. So spoiler alert, skip ahead if you don't want to hear this, but 5K runecrafting experience will be given once you complete it. And then the Guardians of the Rift minigame itself will require 27 runecraft. The quest will need to be completed, and it's members only. The Q&A, they did mention that you will want to have your own stockpile of rune essence, which I thought was confusing. Because you can also mine it, or you can mine something in this minigame. But the idea is, I think a portal will be opening, and then you are kind of tasked to kind of get to that portal, runecraft whatever it is. And while this is all happening, you will have enemies around you as well. And you'll basically have these Rift Guardians. You'll have some wizards, it looks like, that will be helping you battle against these abyssal monsters of whatever. One thing that's kind of cool is this is a non-instance minigame. It's not combat either, so there's gonna be some monsters somehow tied into this, but you won't be like dying. You'll probably still be able to fail like Temperos, but you won't be actually dying, it looks like, because they say this is accessible for skillers. But what's kind of cool is you will be sent to different runecraft altars. So if I'm out there just doing nature runes, and then for whatever reason the nature rune altar is selected in this minigame, Heartless, and you're running this minigame, you'll pop over and we might see each other at the same time. And a whole wave of other people are going to come in. So that sounds like kind of a cool little element to other people who aren't doing this minigame. They might just see a flood of people come in and do a bunch of runecrafting and then disappear. So yeah, all that sounds pretty interesting. So that's what it is. We won't go into a whole lot of detail until it's actually kind of here so we can actually see it and see what actually changes. But they have the experience rates where they want the Guardians of the Rift XP per hour will be based between 20 and 60,000. It'll scale on your level. The intensity will be medium. And they compare this to ZMI, which is 25 to 45,000 an hour, and Blood Runes, which is 35 to 40,000, Soul Rune, and then Lava Runes, which is 75 to 80,000. Of course, and they also have GP per hour, which this would fall to the high end of GP. Blood Runes are average about 400 to 500,000 GP an hour, and Guardians of the Rift will have the same. 400 to 500,000. So, it'll be kind of not AFK, but better experience than Blood Runes, but about the same amount of money.
Yeah, so. I think they could lower the amount of money, just keep it cosmetic, and then push the XP rates a little bit. I think that would be better. As far as I know, you're going to get a huge XP drop at the end of the minigame instead of gaining it during, like Temperos, which means that it's going to be more like Wintertod in that regard. Therefore, you can scale it with your level pretty easily. Obviously, I don't want it to be like, 400 or 500k per hour. That'd be stupid. Like, whatever, you can get a Wintertod is like, 300k per hour? But yeah, it definitely wanted a little bit higher would be nice. But it's certainly going to be a good early game thing as well to runecraft instead of doing whatever. I don't even know what the methods are, questing and lamping at the moment to get to a reasonable level.
Yeah, do a bunch of Fossil Island
Getting
content.
65, I recall, was just the worst. So hopefully this can fill a gap and then give people something to do towards 99 that's a bit more fun than the current methods and maybe a bit quicker.
Yeah, I have memories of grinding out ZMI for some reason. And I remember it taking I did like a week straight of it.
Awful. But I'm hoping they also somehow weave Dale essence into this. Like maybe in the minigame you can, supply your own essence. So if people just want to grind runecrafting, they use pure essence. But if you have AFK time, then maybe you can get Dale essence, which will give you an even bigger boost to your rates in the game. That would be kind of cool. Because then maybe when you're actively playing, you can push your rates from maybe 60k at the max up to 90k, an extra 50% from the day alt, which means you could, while you're working or, doing something else busy, you could, use that day alt. I think that would be interesting if they could implement that somehow. But we'll see. We'll see. I do have big trust in them with this one because their recent sort of mini games have been quite good. So
yeah, and I think they know. So we'll talk about it in a minute. They mentioned some things in the Q&A that I was like, oh, that's eloquently put. Mod Husky made some comments about it, which I thought was really great. But let's quickly go over the rewards because, of course, doing this minigame will reward you with a random amount of runes from a generic loot table. You won't get Wrath for whatever reason. You'll also have a chance at getting talismans, it looks like. I don't know why they even threw this in there, but there'll also be a shop that will have all the talismans as well. And one of the questions is, should there be a new blood talisman? Because with this, there will be a quote unquote true blood altar. So this has to do with lore, and the blood altar we currently have isn't actually the real altar. It's more of like just this conduit.
There is a blood altar in the game. It's just you can't access it.
Yeah, and it's that you get this from Sins of the Father quest. You kind of come across it. So what's going to happen is this new blood altar is going to be accessible, and you'll actually be able to runecraft from it because this is the true altar. The blood altar we have, and the soul altar. These are just more like conduits that are linked to the dark. What's it called? The dark altar. I think it's called the dark crystals that are found even in Chambers of Zarek, and this allows you to craft these blood runes. But the actual true blood altar is found during Sins of the Father. So completing Sins of the Father will allow you to get to this altar again. And you can craft blood runes, which will be comparable to Wrath runes. That's fun. And another possible reward is the catalytic talisman, which will be a rare drop. And this will basically be able to act as any talisman for accessing the altars. You can turn that talisman into a tiara as well. Doing this minigame, you'll get Abyssal Pearls, which is the currency you'll use at the Rift reward shop to buy talismans or other rewards as well. There will be a Rift pet, a Guardians of the Rift pet, and there also might be a new recolor to the existing runecrafting pet. So it's going to be kind of like Temperos, where Temperos is its own pet, and then there's also the fishing, the heron pet recolor.
Yeah, I like what they did with that. Also, the pet is going to be an abyssal leech, I think, which you find when you're going into the abyss in the wilderness.
Right. Oh, cool.
So
that's
one of
fun.
those little level, the 10 HP leeches, I think they're level 40. I think it's going to be one of those, which should be really cool.
Yeah, that sounds really fun. Pets are generally always welcome. So yeah, it's exciting. Another reward is the Abyssal Needle, which you'll need to craft a brand new runecrafting pouch, which you'll need 85 runecrafting for, and it'll allow you to carry 40 runes in it. That's a lot. Right, to compare, the one before it is the giant pouch at level 75 runecrafting, which allows you to carry 12. So this is like 3 times as many runes that can fit in this one. So, hey, you know what? Maybe we're bringing back nature runes. Maybe we're bringing back law rune running. Probably not, but the good days of law rune running might return.
Yeah, but it'll boost the XP for lavas currently if that's what you're interested in doing still.
Oh.
That's the idea behind the colossal pouch.
Oh boy, the 200
Also
mil
will
X
help- will
spears are
help.
going to be pissed.
Will help ZMI as well. So
Yeah, true.
no, screw that. Like rune crafting needs some help for sure.
Yeah, totally.
And this, it's looking perfect so far.
There'll be a abyssal lantern that you can wield in the offhand slot, and it will require fire making as well. And you'll be able to put different logs into this lantern to light. And this will, this kind of corresponds with the fire making level, but redwoods at level 90, magic 75, etc. And depending on what logs you use, it'll give you a different buff. This could be a boost to your reward points. This could be a boost to finding portal shards. This could be a boost to the runes you receive from it. Yada, yada, yada. There's a whole bunch of, each one of them is unique. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's fun. And finally, the Abyssal Pearls will allow you to purchase some rewards from the shop, as we mentioned. But one of these rewards is going to be this new Runecraft skilling outfit. And instead of it giving a boost to experience that many of the other skilling outfits do, this will have a chance of giving you a boost at crafting additional runes. And then finally, the last reward is the Ring of the Elements. This will allow you to store teleport charges, and you can teleport players to various Runecraft related locations. This idea comes from the idea of an infinite ring of dueling, but instead of teleporting to the duel arena, Ferox Enclave, and Castle Wars, you will be able to teleport to the 4 elemental altars, which is air, earth, fire, and water. Did lava runes just get a huge buff?
Like a slight buff, but yeah, I don't know that many people to do them, so I'll be honest. Most people tend to stick to the less intense methods because the rates just aren't even that good. So
what's interesting is this Ring of the Elements that I just mentioned has a chance at being free to play. These are all pulled, by the way, so these are all subject to not even coming to the game, but the Ring of Elements might be added into the free to play world, which would be kind of cool. There's free to play players out there that would love a faster way to train runecrafting.
What do you think about the idea of having an infinite version of current necklaces in the game, like teleport necklaces, i.e. like an infinite games necklace or an infinite ring of dueling? Similar to the infinite amulet of eternal glory, which gives infinite charges.
Yeah, I think it's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it. I feel like at this point, the box has been opened.
It's true, and eternal glory is good, but it's very niche, right?
Yeah, it's nice to have.
The only really people that own one are, I would say, people that do a lot of clue scrolls, and it's 30 mil. So it's just a glory with infinite charges. So most people are better off buying a bunch of glories for 200k and then cycling through them. But if you do a ton of clue scrolls, it's nice to have that little change. But maybe the Ring of Dueling offers some methods. I'm not sure. I think it'd be fine. Same with Ring of Games Necklace would definitely help solo corp quite a lot. Because there's a current solo method where you make games necklaces and then use the Nar to teleport because it's faster than the POH.
Oh, interesting.
So I would be okay with them both coming into the game, but obviously having them be rare and expensive would be interesting.
Yeah, I was thinking, I always thought that being able to charge all of the glory amulets, not glory amulets, all of the Dragonstone jewelry, which would be the skills necklace, the combat bracelet, the glory, obviously, and then the Ring of Wealth. So the way the glory works, so if you don't know how the eternal glory works, you go to this altar of runes, it's called, in the wilderness. It's very deep, and you can recharge your glory amulet to bring back all the charges, and you have a very, very, very small chance at receiving the eternal glory. So it's super rare, but I think doing the same thing with all the other Dragonstone jewelries would be pretty cool. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I don't see why not too. It'd be interesting. I really think the other two would be useful as well. But that's just me.
Mm-hmm.
If they came into the game through some rare method, it'd be interesting. I actually did a few Amulet of Glory runs on the Iron Man to try and figure out the estimates for how long it would take to get one.
Yeah.
And it's about 30 hours because you have to manually uncharge them. But there's some RuneLight plugins that make it a bit quicker. But you can you just use the same inventory over and over again.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so about 30 hours to get one, which is like not worth, but if I was like super late game, I'd consider it.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of interesting. Yeah. I wonder if there's some sort of like money method for someone just buying uncharged glories, charging them, selling them back, and then hoping to get the eternal.
People have done it before. It just doesn't give you experience. So I think people tend to not use that method.
Yeah, and if you get PK'd, you're losing a whole inventory of glories.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's rough. Yeah, some cool stuff there. Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention that Husky talked about was like, because they did the Q&A of this past week, and a lot of it was around, it was all based on this activity, and of course, the topic of like experience rates, and we're at this in this game we have construction, which has like crazy experience rates but they're very expensive. But some skills are just like way quicker to train, and they're way easier, or they're way more fun. And then you have these two skills in particular, which is agility and rune crafting, that are like pretty slow and pretty boring. Agility got an update with the Hollow Sepulchre, which increased the gold per hour and increased the experience rates in agility. Rune crafting's kind of fallen behind, but we had this weird thing of like, you can AFK it at doing blood runes for 30k an hour, or you can basically do lava runes, which is very click intensive, but it's double the speed, and you lose money. And there's a few other ways as well, but they're all just like not as meta. So the topic of like experience rates definitely comes up, because it's like, should we benchmark experience rates for rune crafting at what lava runes are at? Should we never allow them to increase? Or do you allow it to increase? Because the thing is, like, when you have a boring skill, the last thing you want is for that boring skill to also be slow. Like, training construction is really boring, I find, but it's really fast.
You're right.
Yeah, if you have the money, it gets really fast, but it's really boring. Same with thieving.
Like, yeah, rune crafting, the big three: rune crafting, mining, and agility.
Yep.
Are the three worst skills in the game, basically because they're the slowest.
And they're not fun. Yeah.
No, they're not. Sepulchre helped agility quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Before it was just rooftops, which meant it was probably the worst skill. I think because blood rune crafting is actually quite chill, mining is the worst skill for me, but at least there are a few options in mining. I mean, not a lot of people do volcanic mine, but you can do it. There's volcano, which isn't very good XP, but it's doable.
Yeah.
There's some options, but rune crafting doesn't have any options.
Not really. It's all like the same. You go to an altar, you craft some runes. But Husky was saying, if a skill is kind of slow, but it's fun, nobody cares. Nobody ever complains about how slow it is because it's fun. And he used Slayer as an example, where I know some people dislike Slayer, but I would say majority of people really do like Slayer. You like killing stuff, you like getting loot. That's basically all Slayer is. You get some points at the end too, which is fun.
I'd say the majority of people would think it's the best skill in the game.
Yeah, and
if we did a poll, I bet it would win. I don't think other skills would come close. Actually,
but Slayer is also pretty slow to train. It speeds up. It can speed up at higher levels, but generally speaking, it's a pretty slow skill to train.
There's variety. There's bosses. There's money to be made. It's just such a huge variety.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to beat.
So even though it's slow experience, nobody complains about that skill because it's fun. So if agility is slow experience, but it's fun, like nobody's going to complain. Now, this is the tricky part, right? So I think adding the Guardians of the Rift is a great step, but also doing one thing for tens and tens and tens of hours, I want to say hundreds of hours, it's going to get boring eventually. But it's nice to have something new. But I think skills like rune crafting and skills like agility, if they're going to be boring, they should have a few fun things. I'm probably asking for a lot. Be happy with what you're getting. We're getting one thing that could be fun. So I'm looking forward to that. I already have 99 rune crafting. So like, it doesn't really matter to me. But, a lot of people get 99 rune crafting and they're like, I had to deal with it. So you should. Then that's a huge part of like a lot of like the high end community. I had to suffer, so you should too. Which is kind of like
a bit gatekeepery for sure.
Yeah, and it's not great.
I think those rates should be kept within just because you suffer doesn't mean you should make other people suffer.
Yeah, exactly.
I think those rates should be used as a benchmark. Like, I don't think they should suddenly go from, lava runes being 80K to this new minigame being like 150 to 200K.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly think they should use it as be like, okay, well, this skill generally sucks. People think it's slow. You don't make much money. You make a bit of money, but people don't like it at all. There's no good options. So, let's focus on getting the rates up to maybe better than lava runes and then replacing them, or just slightly above, or even equivalent to would be fine.
And even like adding this new bag, adding this new ring, which should in turn increase the rates of lava runes. That's even by a smidge. That's a huge step. That's
I agree. So something like scaling maybe 20K to 80K would be really good for this mini game. Even if you're getting 80K rune crafting an hour, that's comparable to a lot of other skills, right? Like fishing. It's better than fishing. It's better than, I don't know what else, wood cutting. Not as AFK, of course, but it's an interesting concept to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
I generally think people are complaining too much. This is such a fantastic update, and I really hope everything passes the poll.
Yeah, and each person complaining about something different, it seems like, but I think it's 100% going to pass because I've seen overwhelmingly some, like, the people who complain, they tend to get a lot of like upvotes on Reddit, or they get a lot of like retweets on Twitter, whatever it is. Are people even retweeting things on Twitter, but on old school RuneScape Twitter? But it's usually when people complain or have a negative opinion that gets boosted the most. But I've seen overwhelmingly a lot of positive people. They're just a little bit quieter. Anything else to talk about before we move on to the actual update?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Okay, so we got an update this week, which is the Revenant boss. It is a lot smaller than it sounds. When you hear boss, you're expecting something, grand, but it's really not. I was kind of shocked this dropped today because I didn't even realize it was dropping until I saw, was it a post yesterday? I don't remember, but I was surprised to see it drop. It's this new boss in the Revenant Caves that the way it works is actually kind of interesting. The boss itself isn't anything special. It does an AoE attack. It'll shoot a splash damaged attack that you just step out of the way. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. But the way you get it to spawn is kind of cool. So it works. It spawns based on how many revenants are being killed. So every time a revenant dies, it has a small chance of spawning, but it compounds. So then the next rev dies and it hasn't spawned. The chance keeps increasing until it inevitably does spawn. And when it does, everyone gets to kill it, and then then it resets back to like whatever percentage it is at base. And everyone rushes to kill it. Whoever does the most damage gets some loot. Really not that much, not too special. But you also get a buff, which will allow you to do more damage to revs in the Rev Cave for 30 minutes, and hopping will reduce this by 1 minute. So anytime you hop worlds, it'll go down by 1. You need to have the Amulet of Avarice to actually get this buff. So that means you're going to be skulled when you're in the Rev Cave. So if you're not willing to be skulled, you're not going to get this buff, which kind of sucks. And yeah, that is basically it in a nutshell. Oh, I should mention, when you do kill it, you have a chance at getting you will get one of the lower end totems. You can get like the 500k or the 1 mil totem, I believe it is, on drop, which is okay, I suppose. So that is basically the update in a nutshell. One thing that kind of sucks, and I don't know why they went with this, but Iron Men will not be able to get the drops if someone else damages this boss. Like, how do you feel about that?
No, I mean, it's stupid, but whatever. Yeah, everyone can attack the boss.
Yeah,
I don't like it, but I mean, the Rev Caves aren't built for Iron Men.
Yeah,
let's be honest. You need an Amulet of Avarice to even get the buff, so you have to get that as a drop.
Yeah, that's pretty rare. Yeah, and one of the J mods mentioned that Iron Men can still get the buff, but you won't be able to get any drops. And I don't even know if you would be able to solo it if you could.
Solo the boss?
Yeah,
I'm going to be doing a lot of revs, so maybe you have to come back to this. I hope you can just solo it with whatever gear you have, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, I've been watching some videos and people, it seems to be kind of strong. So I saw some people struggling with it, and then eventually a bunch of people show up and they all kill it. Yeah, so there's the here's 2022's PvP update. Yeah, anything worth mentioning?
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of one I want to see in action before I have a lot of comments on it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I hear
It's more
Rev
like
Boss.
a superior, really, than a boss, isn't it? Because it doesn't have any like special uniques. It's
Not really.
just gives like an extra roll and like a mill. It's kind of minimal.
Yeah, no unique items either. He doesn't drop like a new weapon, which I thought would be kind of cool.
Revs do have a lot of unique items already, so I understand that, but maybe something cosmetic would have been cool.
Yeah, pet something, right?
Pet. I mean, you wouldn't want to force. I mean, whatever. Yeah, you could have put a Rev pet. It would have been interesting.
Yeah, it'd be
I would
kind
have
of
been
cool.
okay with that. But a lot of people would have voted no. But I have a feeling they're kind of done with polling wilderness content. They're just going to put it in the game now
Yeah, it can be kind of tricky.
because people are just going to vote no as soon as it's in the wilderness. So I think they'll just force like the new update for the wilderness bosses. They're just going to put it in the game. They're not going to poll it,
Yeah, I think so.
which I think is the way, because it's never going to pass if not.
It's an ongoing battle. All right, so that is the updates this week. Shall we take a break and we'll come on back?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, right, we are taking a quick little break and heading on over to the Grand Exchange, where I tell you some of the ways you can support the show, maybe get some free goodies, or Dill's tips and tricks to making money. That's not really true. Sometimes we talk about how we lose money. Sometimes we talk about something that happened in the Grand Exchange. Sometimes we don't talk about anything. But this week, I figure we talk about it a little bit about merching. Okay, so I'm not that good of a mercher. I have a few items I've merched in the past, few items I've lost a lot of money with, few items I've made a lot of money with, and then items in between that I've made some money with. I feel like I figured out my way of merching, but I was thinking about it, talking with some other people who also merch, and merching in old school RuneScape can be very deep. And I think every person has to find their niche, their method of merching. Old co-host, my brother Deegan, who used to be on the show, he used to merch, and he had a very specific way he used to merch that I've mentioned in the past, which I always thought was very interesting. He did a lot of like situational or conditional merching, we'll call it. Again, I'm not in the merching community at all. I just do a few things that work. So sometimes if I say something that some terminology that's not really terminology, I'm just saying it because it sounds cool. So he would do what I'm going to call conditional merching or conditional flipping. Stuff like on Monday and Tuesday, he's going to buy a bunch of high-end PVM and PvP supplies. We're talking anglerfish. We're talking super restores and Cerebrews and other potions that you're going to use in your end game PVM or PvPing. The high engagement activities in this game. He would then buy that on Monday and Tuesday, and then Friday and Saturday he would sell them at a marked up price, because the idea was Monday and Tuesday, people are just chilling, they're hanging out, they're relaxing after work or school, whatever it is, they're dealing with the kids. Friday and Saturday comes up, you're raiding with the boys, you're PvPing with the gang. So you don't care about market, you just want to do fun, you want to have fun, you want to do fun. So you buy a bunch of resources and you don't really care if you're spending a little bit more than you have to on them. And he did this for a few different things I always thought was interesting, but I could never crack it. I've tried it a bit, but I could not crack it. He would do things where like he would look at a new update that's coming out. For instance, the mobile client when it was first getting released, and he stocked up on a bunch of free-to-play items. And then when mobile came out, he would put them at a marked up cost. Right, make some money off of it, because he figured a lot of new free-to-play players are going to come in. Nobody wants to make red berry pies. That's a pain in the ass. So he's going to buy the red berry pies now, sell them marked up when it gets released. Do the same thing with like goblin mail and all these other items. which is a really interesting way to merch. The way I always merch is I look for items that tend to be a pain in the ass to get. You need it for a one-time use, and they're worth enough money that you have lower levels who are going to grab them and sell them, right? So I'm talking items for diaries, right? Your diary tasks. There's going to be some one-off items where you need to use something, do something with an item one time, and either it consumes it or you do it and you don't need it anymore. Another good one is clue scrolls, right? Look at Yuri emote clue scrolls. There's a bunch of items out there. I'm gonna throw this one out there. A Zamrock full helmet, right? It's worth like 300k, I think. I don't know, but people are gonna buy that item for the clue scroll, and there's gonna be a lot of people who either can't make the stash unit yet, or it's kind of it's at a price where they want the money back. It's only a couple 100k, but that's a lot of money to some people. So you buy these items because people just want it right then and there to complete their clue, and then they're going to sell it. So they might lose 20, 15k, but they don't really care. They're just like, fuck it, give me the money. So those are the items that I've always kind of looked at, because you work with a few items and you kind of learn the margins, and that's when you can really make money. You almost got to commit to an item. You got to commit to a method, because once you learn what the margins are, then you can start making money. Oh, you buy this one item for 280k and it's not selling right now, but at some point it will sell for 350k. You just hold on, it will go back up. People have these items that they know, so even when the market dips, they just stock up, buy in the dip, right? And that's what they say for cryptos or whatever it is, stocks. When the market dips down, for a lot of people, if you have the money, that's the time to invest more while things are cheap, because you have a good feeling they might just go back up. That's the idea. But there's there's so many different ways of doing it. And the reason I brought this up is I was talking with someone, and we were talking about the elite. There's going to be an elite update down the road, or a clue scroll update. Every now and then they just do a clue scroll update, and the elite clues kind of suck. They're hands down the worst clue because of how much work they take, and the rewards you get from it are usually very, very, very low. Usually not worth it. And it's actually harder to get third age from an elite clue than it is any other clue, because just the way the table is, there's a lot more gilded items on it, if I'm not mistaken. They're not worth as much. So they're going to be doing an update eventually. So I started looking at, we started looking at, what are Dragon Implings selling for? Because people might stock up on Dragon Implings. But see, that's if you can be quick on that, you can make a lot of money, right? If you're quick on those flips and be the first, you can make money. But if you're a little bit late, like I was, and the person I was talking to was, you'll see they've already gone up in price because people are already doing that. But what I like to try to do, and I wanted to start doing it more and try to look this thing, it's kind of a skill, you gotta get better at it. You do an item that's 3 times removed from it, right? So maybe, Dragon Implings are really expensive. What about butterfly nets and impling jars? What about just items that you're gonna for instance, when Nex was released, Armadillo items shot up in price because people wanted to use it for the boss, right? It's a lot of people are ranging the boss, so it became very valuable. All right, so a lot of people are now grinding God Wars, so grinding out Commander Ziliana and Kriera. What about looking at that and then thinking, I could try merching the Armadillo items, and I'm probably too late. But what if I do another step removed that people haven't caught on to yet, and I start merching the supplies needed to kill Kriera? Right? And I think if you can do that a few times, if you are smart enough and you can see an update's coming out, and you're I'm not gonna merch the item that's related to it. I'm gonna merch the item that's related to the item that's related to it. Might be an easier way to kind of get into the market quicker and kind of when people start noticing these huge item increase, when the Armadillo crossbow shot up in price, everyone knew about it because that was friggin' insane, right? Same with when an item crashes, a T-bow crashes, everybody knows about it. But if you do a few items that are removed, there's a little bit of a trail, but it takes a skill. You need to know this stuff, and I'm not good at it at all. But we were talking, me and someone in Discord, and I was like, God, this is something I want to kind of think about more and see if I can find my way around it, because it's kind of fun. All right, I don't know, let me know what you guys think. There's I know some people are really good at merching, and the hard thing is it's hard to find good guides. because people always have their own interest first, and they're not going to tell you the way they make their money. They don't want to give away their secrets, right? Because then it's harder to make money when you give away that secret. So it's harder. It's like the crypto bros, right? You go to these crypto YouTube channels, and it's so hard to find. You never know. Can you trust them? There's people trying to sell you on this new Dogecoin or Shiba, whatever new crypto's out, and you're like, can I trust them? And then like someone for me, I'm like, probably not. They probably have a lot of this crypto, and they want you to invest in this crypto so it goes up in price, so they can sell it to you, make money off of it, right? So it's it's tricky. It's hard to find like actual. It becomes really tricky, right? Just going on YouTube and trying to find guides. You might find some guides on how to do it, but you'll never find people being like, choose these items. So, anyways, that was something that was top of mind for me today, and I figured it'd be fun to kind of chat about. We rolled the dice, and that was what the topic landed on. But now we segue. We go to the other part of the Grand Exchange, where we talk about how you can support the show. So, guys, if you enjoy the Wilderness Podcast, if you've liked maybe 199 episodes so far, and if you've been thinking, wow, I wish I could get maybe a few more or whatever, I want to hear. Maybe you want to hear me ramble. I don't know why anyone would want to hear me ramble about more stuff, but maybe somebody does. Maybe it's whatever. I don't know. Maybe somebody does. Go to patreon.com/TheWildernessPodcast. We do the live stream Q&As that Jagex does every week. Do a little commentary, a little pre and post show to discuss and hear about what they're got planned. And we do little supplementary episodes of what I call Dill's Diaries, where every now and then we chat about some topic that's interesting to me. Of course, one of the perks is our top tier support. If you're a top tier supporter, one of the perks is you get a special shout out every single episode. So here we go. Splimo, Strosity, Hoyt, Mallard, Twisted Soul, J Blast, Z Space, Yay Fiber, and P Jackals. Thank you guys so very much for supporting the show. I appreciate it a ton. And thank you to everyone else who does support the show on Patreon as well. You guys are awesome. Really do appreciate it. But hey, Patreon's not your thing. You can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/dills, where you can make a one-time donation instead. So, of course, special shout out to 2JZ Soup for keeping me caffeinated this week. Thank you. I love me some coffee, and it really, really does help. Like, not even joking. Any money that comes through the Buy Me a Coffee literally buys me a coffee. Okay, last but not least, we have a Discord server, discord.gg/thewilderness. In radio, they always say when you're doing an advertisement, you want to say the name of the company 3 times in your ad, which can be really tough in a 30-second ad. This is like a 2-hour-long ad for the Discord, so we shout out the episode at the beginning, we shout out the server at the beginning, shout it out now, and we're going to shout it again in a couple minutes at the end of the show. So it's discord.gg/thewilderness. But we have that unique URL because of our awesome Discord server boosters. So that is Battlestaffs, Beefy Click, Chick, Hoyt, and Should've. So thank you guys so much for boosting that server. Alrighty, we are back from our break. We got some emails and some messages to talk about. So before we get into our email, let me go through a message continuing from the River Doan last week that we mentioned, sent in from Mr. Ted's. So this week, Stumpy Nigel on Discord reached out to kind of give me some more insight. And first off, he is saying it is pronounced Ardoin.
Whatever.
You know what? I would say you're probably right, but I have watched the JMods pronounce Ardone, and nobody at Jagex HQ has any idea of how it's spelled. So I think it's up for interpretation, but we'll go with it. Ardoin, he says. And he mentions, I think the name Ardoin or Ardrone is really interesting and kind of based on a similar naming convention as Lumbridge, as well as having some real life influences. So he kind of goes into it. So I think he mentions it here. We'll go through it first. He says, in English cities and towns, it's common to have the name be named after the river it is near and a feature of the city. So Cambridge is named after the bridge over the river Cam or Cam. And this is exactly how the name Lumbridge was brought up, right? Because there's the river Lum that goes through, and you got the bridge that links the castle to the goblins, which is pretty cool. And then he says, for Arduin, we have the river Duin running through the middle, hence the second half of the name. The first half, AR, doesn't really have any meaning, though, so it is likely that is part of some name that's taken directly from a road in Belfast, in Ireland, named Arduin Road. This is very appropriate because Arduin Road is known for separating the areas where the Catholic and Protestant citizens of Belfast would live, drawing a similar division to the east and west sides of Arduin, which is split by the river Duin. So in conclusion, Arduin is both named after an IRL road in Ireland and a common English naming convention. So for TLDR, answer to your question from the podcast, the R, AR, and Arduin doesn't have any specific meaning, but it comes from an IRL influence for the city name.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. I really like learning about how cities are settled and how they're named. I never paid attention to any classes in school. I never paid much attention at all. And so I missed out on all this information that probably is just commonplace to most people. But since I started playing Dungeons and Dragons a few years ago, I've really had I like to do this like it's called world building, but I like drawing almost like fantasy maps. They're very rough. They're not very good at all. But I have a book and it teaches you how to draw maps, and I like doing that, and it's fun. But I found myself watching a bunch of YouTube videos that talks about geography, and it talks about how rivers are formed, and it talks about why an area is more of a desert, like how that happens, and how plate tectonics are formed, and how that makes islands. Learning all that stuff is really fun when you're making these maps, because it kind of has this like realism factor to it, and linking this to like how cities are named, which is really cool. And even just like with RuneScape, it's interesting to know that like in the Fourth Age, Varrock was named after, I think it's named after a hero who I think fought off a bunch of barbarians named Avaraka. That's what Varrock is named after. I don't know. I find that stuff kind of cool. I like world building. We talked about Dune earlier. Like I really love hearing people like come up with these like interesting worlds and these fake areas, and even just real life, how cities are named and stuff like that. I go on Wiki sometimes and I'll just type in some towns around me, and I like to read about how they formed and why they got settled where they were. Is that commonplace information? Like, did you learn that? Did we learn that in school? And was I just not paying attention?
What, the way things are named? Not like
just in general. I don't know.
Not really.
Okay.
I guess in like social studies a little bit, but not very much.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool stuff. So thanks, Stumpy Nigel. And I'll have to do a shout out as well. If anyone needs some YouTube content, go check out Stumpy Nigel on YouTube. He came out with this series being I think it's an Iron Man locked on the Isle of River. Not Isle of River. Holy shit. The Isle of Souls. One of those unique snowflake accounts. But it's a really great series. So go watch it on YouTube. I enjoyed watching it. We got an email from Crunk, Mr. Crunk. He says, hey, Dills and Heartless. I'm a longtime listener of the show and want to say I appreciate all you guys do to keep entertained throughout their weeks. He says, I run a pretty big clan in game, and I love hearing about the events and bingos and such with that our clan, Wild Clan, throws. And he says, do you have any advice for running a big clan or doing events with a lot of people? Thanks, boys, and God bless. So this might be like kind of maybe fun to talk about because you run the big bingo events, which grown every single time, which is a huge endeavor to take on. And I know, like, personally myself, I guess I started this wild clan, this wild community for the podcast. And it really grew over the years. And I've never really been much. I've never ran a clan before. I've usually been a part of clans and like when I played other games, which was always fun. I never actually ran one. So it's kind of this undertaking I took on, which sometimes it's sometimes can be a bit overwhelming, but yeah, this thing kind of just fell on my plate, I guess. Cause like I started the CC and I remember for years people would show up and they'd be like, is this for the podcast? And I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, oh, there's no one else here, so I'm going to leave. And they was just like, it was like people wouldn't stay. They'd show up, they'd see me in it, and then they would leave. So like, oh, this is way more dead than I thought it would be. But then eventually one person stayed, and then someone would join. They see, oh, there's 2 people here. And they would stay. And then it just kind of started to grow. People just started to stay. And then the Discord started to grow as well. And and it's kind of, it was a snowball. Like I remember like when I started seeing, I remember when like the clan got a scroll bar with people online, and I was like, holy shit, you can scroll up and down.
And now we're big now. There's like over 400 people in our clan.
Yeah, we were talking on the Discord earlier. You mentioned it where you're like, we're almost at 500 people. Dills, you got to kick some of your alts out. My little army of alts.
10 alts. Oh my God. Yeah, we're going to have to start coming up with some kind of an alt requirement for people.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, like I know for myself, I needed help at some point. So like Heartless helped out. And we have other people.
That's the big one. I would say like if you're looking to run events, don't run them by yourself. So there's like for the bingo, while I'm like one of the main people, there's definitely a lot of people that help out. Specifically Wheeze, him and I sort of come up with the board together, and then we crowdsource ideas from what the community wants to do. So it's not just all us, like, in a dark room working by ourselves. We definitely get help from our community. And that's one of the most important, like for a bingo specifically, if you have a large group of people, you have to sort of decide what are the extremes of your group. So in the Wild CC, the extremes are, there are some people that are completely new because everyone's united by the podcast, which doesn't attract any one specific type of player.
It's all over the place.
So you have people that are new, you have people that are in the mid game, you have people, that have played for a while, you have people that are like elite players, that are grinding pets or have max accounts. So you have a wide range of people, which means we tailor our events specifically for that wide group of people. So for bingos, we need to make sure that there are things that are difficult to keep the end game players excited, while there are also lots of things for the newer players to be able to do. And I would suggest you sort of take a poll of your community. If you're you're like a PVM clan, then you can sort of lean it a little bit more towards PVM. But if you're a big open clan like us, united by something that's maybe not PVM specifically, then you might want to tailor your events so that more people can be involved in them. That is what I would suggest.
Yeah, totally. And even with like events itself, it's like a learning curve. There's nothing wrong with doing events that are just strictly fun, but I would definitely have those as a Friday night event, have maybe a small prize pool, but people are typically
short. If you're just trialing an event, like we trialed a PvP from scratch event, and I think we had like 16 people sign up or something. Absolute blast. We had such a fun time. We haven't done one since. We really should do it again.
Yeah, we talked about doing one soon.
Such a good time. I also got extremely drunk that night. Just running around the wilderness, killing green dragons. But yeah, it was really, really fun. And I think I would do it again, but I'm glad that we started small so that we could adjust it. And bingo was the same. We started small. We only had 25 people. This last one, we had nearly 100 people sign up. And each time you just kind of get better and better. So don't be hard on yourself. Like things aren't going to work out. But the process of running event, you're only going to find those things out when you actually try the events for yourself. So start small and then figure out what was liked and what isn't liked and then move from there. And I think bingo specifically, we've gotten to a place where we're quite good at running them now for large groups of people. And they've only really gotten better every single time.
Yeah.
And I honestly can't wait for the spring one because there's a bunch of new ideas that I want to implement into the bingo. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly, maybe April when that's going to happen. But it should be a lot of fun. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah. And like a thing that I've like learned is if you're doing these events that are just for fun, they're great for one night. But if you want to do an event that lasts a week, you have to base it around people progressing their account because they're not going to want to do it otherwise.
Totally.
We did this like this Wild Diaries a few months ago, right? Where it's like these tasks that were a mix of PVM and social and skilling, and people seem to enjoy it for the most part. But I also noticed a lot of people didn't like doing stuff that wasn't actively progressing their account. Nobody wants to skill if they're already at 99.
Yeah, that was kind of like a good learning experience in some ways, because there wasn't a lot of people that participated, and then they only liked certain things, you know, like there was a lot of speed tasks in there, which are, as we've talked about with combat achievements are amazing content, but they're really only for the niche of the niche, people that are like end game, that are going for speeds, that have done a lot of the content in the game and just want to spice things up. Whereas for the average player, that's not really what they're excited with. You also don't want things to be like bingo specifically. You don't want things to be just tedious. So for example, get 500k fishing XP as a team. Like that just kind of sucks. Every team is going to get it, but it's more of a chore than something that's actually fun. So I find when the grinds are RNG based, you have a lot better stories with them, and they're always a lot more fun, because it's nice getting spooned on some tiles and then going extremely dry. Like, you know, as horrible as it was for our team to go like almost 3,000 Sarachnis kills with a cudgel, which is like 10 times the drop rate or something stupid, it made for a good story and we had a good laugh about it. And at the end of the day, that's one of the things I remember the most from that last bingo was all 7 of us in Discord, all streaming, sending Sarachnis. And the reaction when we got the cudgel was strong. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, just tailor it to your community, and just don't be afraid to try stuff.
And I'd also say set expectations low. I know early on when we tried events, we would do like a snowball fight. I remember one time, like, nobody showed up. Like we did this, like we had this plan for it was like Saturday. It was going to be, snowball fight. And only one other person showed up for it. And it was like, oh. And so we ended up doing something for fun anyways. We didn't quite do a snowball fight, but like that doesn't mean don't do the event. Still do the event, but if nobody shows up, just be, you know, like, or if a smaller turnout happens than that you're expecting, like that's okay. You know what I mean? That's like, but if a small turnout happens and then you make as much fun out of that small turnout as possible, the next time you do it, be even better, because then they're like, well, that was fun. I'll do it again next time, and it'll be different. Whatever it is. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else you want to mention before?
No, not really.
Yeah.
If you send more details and have more specific questions, always happy to help. You know, with you setting up events or whatever, or even participate if you need more people. Be down for that.
Yeah, and I think also like being closer at the top, sometimes you have to like be okay with like sacrificing your joy for the joy of the others.
I'm telling you, like, so basically there's not a lot of things I'm missing on my account, right? Realistically at this point. So when it comes down to bingo, there's like 1 or 2 things I could go for, you know, usually raids or something. There's items for me, but about halfway through the week, I just full send tiles for the team every time. I get lots of dupes and I always have a blast. I don't know. It's just a different mindset, you know? Like it feels like a team sport in a game that's almost always such a solo event, especially as an Iron Man. But even as a main, it's typically like a solo thing. It's like you're about getting money and splits and upgrading your gear. You don't really care about your friends too much. Like you do care about them, obviously, but you know, you're really going after your own upgrades. Just working with them happens to be beneficial for both of you.
Yeah, totally. And sometimes like you might have an event where you need somebody to moderate. And if you can't find someone to moderate, you might have to moderate it, which kind of means you might have to sit out.
Yeah, dude, exactly. Like bingo, for example, Wheeze usually just sits out of bingo. And he just mods because he would rather do that than have the stress of, you know, no one moderating it. And same with you. You guys usually do that and you let me play because, you know, I love it so much.
You find your own fun. But sometimes that means like there's like in Dungeons and Dragons, there's a YouTuber, Matt Colville, that I really like, who talks about DMing. And he explains, so Dungeons and Dragons, if you haven't played it, it's this weird type of board game. It's a tabletop game where you have a bunch of people playing this game, but then you have one person who is kind of playing a different game, and he's the dungeon master, and he's narrating what's going on, and he has to do a lot more work than the other players, and he has to prepare this adventure that all the other people are going to go on. And the whole idea is like, does the DM have fun? The DM tends to have fun when everyone else is having fun. So that's kind of like almost like the same mantra. And DMing is really fun, but it's a very satisfying fun when you're watching everyone else having fun with something you prepared. Yeah. So but it does take more work. It's it's very comparable to DMing now that I think about it. Because DMing can take so much fucking work for Dungeons and Dragons. You have to create a whole story and.
One more thing for bingo specifically, I think it's really important to keep teams in the dark from each other.
Right.
Because, for example, like we tend to turn, this is a common debate. People are always like, oh, we should turn on the drops so that if someone gets a cool drop, we can GZ them or whatever. Or, if someone completes a tile, we can see that they have. That can be like a huge demotivator for teams. So like, for example, last bingo, the team, 5 of the 6 teams, basically all the teams were in the running for the win. But my team specifically, and you guys were talking about it, came out to like a huge start. We had such a huge lead on all the other teams on day 3, like double the points. But then we dried up, everyone kept grinding, and they caught up to us. And then, other teams ended up winning. So that never would have happened if we had the drops on, because they would be like, oh, this team's so far ahead. What's even the point of trying anymore?
Yeah. And I think even in the first one, people could see others' chats or they could see each other's boards.
Yeah, we could see each other's boards and chats and stuff like that. And then it just became this like, oh, well, team 4 finished on day 4. So I guess we're just done with bingo. So you need people's motivation to be high throughout the entire event. And that's why turning off drops is vital.
Yeah. And then if you have someone who moderates, because the thing is all the teams are in the dark from each other, but the teams still kind of want a glimpse at what's going on. So this way, if you have what we do for bingo is like, we'll have every team separated, and then we'll have like an announcement channel that everyone can see. And then you'll just be like, oh, so-and-so got a pet. And the pet's not part of the board, but it's exciting to be like, oh shit, like gives you an idea of what people are grinding without seeing how far along they are. Because the last thing you want is, this is what happened with me with League. I saw a post on Facebook from Jagex, because I follow the RuneScape on Facebook, and it was like, if you have this many points, you're in this rank for leagues. And I was like, holy shit, I'm in Steel? Oh my God, I play every single day. How the hell am I in Steel? I'm like really not crushing these tasks. And it really demotivated me, knowing that I'm like so far behind, and I'm still like, I thought I was playing a lot. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think we pretty much covered most of it, but yeah, we got bingo. Someone asked about it earlier in the Discord. We got bingo kind of coming up. You're thinking sometime in the spring, right? In March, so early April.
I think like last week of March I have spring break, which is like the last 2 weeks of March. So I could easily run the event on the last week of March. So it's either going to be then or like the first week of April, like it was last year. Or maybe last year it was I'm not 100% sure. It's basically every 4 months. So sometime late March to late April, sometime in there, it's gonna be happening. We'll hammer down a date, and there'll be plenty of warning on the podcast. Don't you worry. I mean, the last one only finished like a month ago, but I mean, it is a fun event, so you can't really go wrong with it.
Yeah, that is it. Which means we need to wrap up.
Oh, we sure did.
Yeah, I guess first thing I want to say before we get into all the news, well, first off, thank you, Crunk, and again, Stumpy Nigel, for reaching out this week. Always love to hear from people. But speaking of hearing from people, guys, we have episode 200 coming up. It's a big milestone. I'm looking forward to it. It should be pretty fun. But we want some people to kind of send in some questions, send them some whatever it is. We want to hear from you. But people have mentioned in the past, and it's something that I've wanted to do, but I couldn't really figure out the capabilities of it. But I was looking around, and well, we figured it out. So we now have we're going to call it an answering machine, but it's really just an app where you can call in and leave a voice message that we will then play on the podcast. But if you're hearing from this and you want to call in, check the description of this episode, click the speak pipe link, and leave us a message, because we want to hear from as many people as possible for episode 200. We think it'd be really rad. It would be super cool. Yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, call in, and we're gonna have another call link that you're gonna be able to click and continue to leave messages, because again, really enjoy that sort of stuff that we can play. If you don't want to email, you want to call instead, that's how you can do it. I've already seen a few calls come in this past week. I posted in the Discord, so really excited for that. Guys, if you want to join our clan, it is Clan Wild in game. You can join Wild CC. It's usually kind of empty, but that can be kind of a waiting room to get into Wild Clan. Just ask somebody. It's better yet, come to the Discord, discord.gg/thewilderness, and ask someone to get in the clan as well. And our email is thewildernnesspodcast@gmail.com. That is pretty much it. It was funny. I was trying to get us a phone line, an actual phone line that somebody could dial in, because I really wanted that. But it was expensive, and I wasn't able to get like 1-800 OSRS podcast or OSRS cast. I was trying to get some funny number like that, but that didn't quite work. Harley, is anything before we get on out of here? We're gonna do that song that we teased earlier.
Yeah, you can always send in song requests too.
Yeah, song requests we want to hear. And why is it your favorite song and all that stuff? And one of these days we'll do an episode where we talk about the best music, and maybe we'll feature some songs, because there is so many good tracks. All right. So yeah, there's 199. And yeah, the next time you guys hear from us, we'll be on the big 200 spectacular.
See ya.
Which would be a lot of fun. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you on the next one.